Hey there, my fellow friends. My name is Tarana. Tell me, how are all of you doing? Well, actually, I think I already know the answer to this question that I've asked you. I know that you guys are like super duper busy, right? After all, exam season is fast approaching. And during this time, we're all so busy trying to read so many things, and sometimes there's a lot of new information, right? But tell me, have you ever felt this sometimes that when you open up your textbook to learn something for the first time, you take one look at it and you feel so overwhelmed by all the information that literally seems to jump up at you? Like, for example, take a look at this. This is all the information that we have on the chapter Light. Now, this is so much to remember. There are literally formulas and theories that are popping out of nowhere. Now, how does one remember all this? How does one memorize all this? Time is so little. Exams are near. Panic. Well, let's not panic. Let's stay calm. Supposing I told you that we have a very special tool that will actually help you to keep all of this information in a very systematic, organized, and yet a fun way. And to add the cherry on top of it, this tool that I'm talking about will also help you to solve questions in exams. So, do you know what I'm talking about? Can you guess what it is? Because that is exactly what we will be discussing today. That's right. Today we will be discussing how to make and use mind maps. That's right. Now, this method is actually super fun and it's very easy to do. So, without any further delay, why don't we get to it immediately? But before I start, I want to ask you something. Tell me, do you know what a mind map is? Well, I know you're probably thinking, mind map. Kind of sounds like a map to guide you through your very brain. No, that's not what it is, not at all. A mind map is basically a visual representation or a complete picture of core concepts and their relationships with the key points in the concept. This is a method to learn, revise, and solve questions. Let me show you this. Take a look over here. Now, you see this diagram? This is actually a mind map of how to create your very own mind map. And this can be used for any and all the topics that you come across. And this will help us to keep track of what we're going to be discussing today. This is like a mind map of a mind map. All right. So now you know basically what a mind map is, right? But you're probably thinking, why should I use a mind map? Well, let me tell you why. Mind maps are very, very beneficial. They have so many uses. I'm going to tell you about it. So, first of all, mind maps help you to revise for your exams. Now, this is a very important use because just days before your exam, there are so many chapters to read and then to memorize, and all of this takes so much time, right? Now, with a mind map, you can actually remember the whole chapter in less than half an hour. So, it helps you to revise for your exams by saving a lot of time. Okay, next benefit. Now, let's say that you're in class. Do you know that a mind map can also help you to make notes? Yes, mind maps help you to make crisp and smart notes. But do you know that by using a mind map, you can also visualize the concept? Now, what do I mean by visualize the concept? Sounds big, right? Let me give you an example. Think of it like this. Now, you know the concept of the mirror, right? Now, under the concept of the mirror, you know that you have concave mirrors, convex mirrors, and all these things are related, right? So, there will be a map like this in your mind. This diagram that we're going to teach you how to make is going to help you to remember tougher topics by visualizing them in your mind. It makes it easy peasy. Okay, talking about visualizing. Tell me, if it helps you to visualize, then what are the other places that we can use it? Yes, it will also naturally help you to organize if you can visualize it, right? So, it will help you to arrange your tasks in such a way that you can do your work very efficiently. Okay, now tell me, once you have organized your topics, naturally you will be revising the topics after a few days. So, using mind maps to revise actually helps you to summarize the chapter in a crisp and a concise way too. Okay, now this is so many benefits, but I've got still more. I'm very excited about mind maps actually. So let me go ahead with the next benefit. Now, tell me, say you have a project during your time at school or maybe while watching BYJU'S classes during a DIY task. How easy would it be if you could just jot down the ideas during your brainstorming or just find new ideas in a really easy way? So mind maps actually really help during such creative times too. In fact, that's when you can go as creative as possible. Okay, but according to the current scenario of your exams, how can mind maps help you there? Well, mind maps can help you in solving questions. How, you may ask? Well, we will be discussing that, but before we do that, we should all know how to make a mind map, right? Now, there are some very important features that one must keep in mind while making a mind map. So let us check out the features of a mind map. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty bits of a mind map. I mean, what makes a mind map a mind map? Now, the point of this discussion is to make sure that you will be able to make a mind map on your own. And that is why we must remember all the key points of a mind map. Now, the very first thing you will notice in a mind map is the grouping of concepts and ideas. How do I explain this? Okay, I've got an idea. Think of it like a tree. Now, bear with me, I'm explaining why. So this is the trunk of the tree and these are the branches and these are the leaves on the tree. Okay, my drawing is not great, guys, but this is just to explain the idea to you, okay? So you have the trunk, you have the branches and the tree. Now, think of the trunk of the tree as the chapter that you are learning, right? This trunk is then divided into branches or what we will label as concepts. So our branch becomes the concept. Are you with me so far? Now these concepts are further subdivided into leaves or sub-concepts. Okay, so let me put that in a different color again. The leaves become the sub-concepts. Are you guys getting the drift of what I'm saying? The sub-concepts should be grouped and connected to the concepts, just like how a cluster of leaves are connected to the branch of the tree. Isn't my analogy a good analogy? Okay, now, after that is after being grouped, one of the things that you must remember about a mind map is that a mind map is meant to be non-verbal or less texty in nature. So what do I mean by this? See, in a mind map, you don't need to write big sentences to describe a topic or a concept. A mind map is meant to be concise and efficient. Now, you can add a few points here and there if you feel that there is a need for this. I mean, whatever you feel will work for you because after all, it's your own mind map, right? So do what works for you. Okay, so we have grouped less texty. Next up, every mind map should have a certain flow of direction. It will help you to know which chunk of the chapter falls under which concept. Okay, now you might be thinking that the connections that we make in a mind map can only happen in a single concept, right? But that's not true. There can be interconnectedness of various ideas. For example, let me draw this mind map for you. So this is the chapter and we have, say, concept A, we have concept B, and let's say we have concept C over here. Now, as you can see with what I've drawn over here, concept A is connected to concept C. So concepts can also be connected. So mind maps are interconnected. Okay, now tell me, what I've drawn over here, is this the only way of representing this mind map? Actually, no. The mind map can vary from person to person. Mind maps depict one's own reflection or interpretation of the topic in our brain. And obviously, all our brains work in very different ways, right? So take a look at this. You could have one mind map that is like this. Now, see this? Person A has a very different mind map as compared to person B, right? So a mind map made by you might be very different from a mind map which is made by your friend, but both would be correct. And this is why it is important to understand the reflective nature of the mind map, right? It makes it easier for you to read your own mind map. Okay, so we're done with the features. Now that you know the features of a mind map, are you ready to know a few simple steps to make a mind map of your own? Okay, then let's go. Okay, so let me show you how exactly. there are basically some steps to making a mind map. So first of all, you need to have the concepts of the chapter listed down. Now, in order to do that, what we have to do is we have to list down all the topics in the chapter and group them into concepts. So this is concept listing. I was going to say concept ticking, but concept listing, right? Next, you have to take those concepts in a pedagogical order, since every chapter will have a flow of concepts, right? Now, this will help us to make the skeleton structure of the mind map, sort of like the tree without leaves. Okay, for example, let me show this to you. So, this is the chapter over here, all right? And then you could have, say, concept 1. Let me show it. I'll do this to you in a different color. Concept 1. Then you have concept 2, concept 3, and say concept 4, right? Our next step is to place the sub-concepts under the concepts. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's focus on a single concept over here and start placing sub-concepts under this. I'm going to put this for you in a different color so that you understand this, okay? So, let's start with concept 1. Under concept 1, I am placing subtopic 1 and subtopic 2, okay? Now, in some chapters, there will be some very important facts which actually aid learning as well and are quite important for the chapter as a whole too. So, you can now either attach such facts to the sub-concept or you could attach it to the concept, right? So, here, for example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a fact in a different color. Let's put this in blue, for example. We will put fact 1 under subtopic or sub-concept 1. Wonderful. We have finished one branch of our mind map. Now, to complete this entire process, you need to repeat the same with the other concepts too. And that would be step number 5, right? So, let's do this for the concept 2. We will use the same color for the concepts. So, concept 2 will probably say have subtopic 3, subtopic 4, subtopic 5, for example. And then you may have concept 3, which may have, say, only one subtopic. So, we could say subtopic 6, for example. And maybe you could have another fact that comes up with subtopic 6. So, we'll put that again in black and in blue, sorry. And I'll put that down as fact number 2. You see that? Voila, you have your very own fully functional mind map. Now, I know what you guys might be thinking. You want to know how to make a mind map right now and you want to try this cool technique out, right? Well, then let's go. So, now we will make our very own mind map. First of all, I will delete all this over here so we have a nice clean slate. Yes, it's always good to start with a clean slate. Nice. Okay, now we will learn how to make our own mind map using the steps that we just learned on a familiar chapter that you guys already know. Let's take the chapter light. Okay, now here, as you can see, we will be using this small sheet of paper with the steps that we've just learned. Now, we're going to call this a flow sheet. Now, what is our first step over here? The first step is concept listing. So, let's do that for the chapter on light. All right, light. You see that? Now, here we have all the topics of the chapter in the correct order. So, what you could also do sometimes is you could draw a few things if you feel that it will help you to remember. Like you see what I've done over here? I've drawn it instead of just writing it down. So, do what you feel works for you. Okay, now what we're going to try to do is we're going to try and put these in the corresponding concepts. Okay, so for example, let's take the first point, which is the laws of reflection. Now, this will come under what concept? Yes, it will come under the concept of reflection. So, let's just put that down. We will write reflection over here. Cool. Next, the next 2 points that you see. What does it say? Mirror formula and magnification of mirror. Now, these 2 points will definitely come under the concept of a spherical mirror, right? So, we will put that down. Spherical mirror. All right. What about the remaining points on this side? They talk about the lens, right? So, all the remaining points on this side are topics under the concept of lens. Right. Now, let's move on to the next portion of the page. Take a look over here. You see the word refractive index. Now, all these points mentioned here come under refraction. So, we will put that down too. Right? And this drawing that I mentioned earlier, this tells us about sign convention. So, that will go under that concept. Right? So you see the concepts that we finished the first step actually by grouping it under concepts: reflection, spherical mirror, lens, refraction, and sign convention. These are all our concepts. So well done. We have completed our very first step, right? Concept listing is done. Now what do we have to do? Naturally, we have to move on to step number 2, which is what? Making the skeleton structure of the mind map. So let's do that. Okay, now what I've done for you over here is that I have put in all the major concepts that we've already discussed under the chapter light. Now, as you can see, I've put light at the center. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to attach them together and make the skeleton of our mind map. Yeah. Okay, now we have the skeleton ready. But did you notice a really interesting thing over here? You see, the name of the chapter over here has a different color to the color of the concept. So I've put the chapter name in orange and I put the concepts in green. So you also can use different colors for different portions like concepts, sub-concepts, facts. Do what works for you as always. Okay, so this part is done. Skeleton is ready. What is our next step? Well, yes, the next is sorting out the sub-concepts into the respective concept branches. Well, we already did that. Let me show you. Okay, well, here it is. I have drawn it in the form of boxes. Now, each box over here represents all the sub-concepts, facts, etc. inside that particular concept. So, now let's start arranging them. Let's start with the reflection concept. Can you find which point fits under the reflection concept? Let me show you. Yes, that's the point under the concept of reflection, right? So that is the sub-concept. Now, the sub-concept point is done. So let us move ahead to the next step, which is what? Individual facts. Now, do we have any individual facts under the concept of reflection? No, we don't have any. So that step is complete too. Now, what do we have to do? We have to go to the final step, which is to repeat the same thing from step number 2. So let's go. Let us take a look at the spherical mirrors concept. We have grouped it into subtopics like this, or sub-concepts basically. Then we have the one under sign convention. You see, the diagram shows up over here. Now we will do the same thing for refraction. And that's done. Again, take a look. We have used different colors for the individual facts. You see, the individual facts over here are in black. Now, as I mentioned previously, the individual facts can attach either to a concept or to a sub-concept too. And finally, we have the concept of lenses and we have the sub-concept and the facts done with that too. And we are done with the mind map. We have created a complete mind map from scratch. And with that, we have actually completed the 5th and the final step too. So we have just learned about how to make a mind map. So then, guys, are you ready to answer some questions using a mind map? Well, then let us go. And here is our very first question. The question says, a concave mirror has a focal length of 20 centimeters. At what distance from the mirror should a 4 centimeters tall object be placed so that it forms an image at a distance of 30 centimeters such that both the object and the image are on the same side of the mirror? Also calculate the size of the image formed. Well, luckily we just made the mind map of the chapter light right now. So let's go and use it. Ta-da! All right. So as we discussed, we will be using this mind map to solve our question. But can you tell me which portion of this mind map will be used to solve this question? Okay, so if you think about it, the question is related to the concept of mirrors and sign convention, right? More specifically, spherical mirrors and sign convention. So we have exactly what we need. We have the formulas to find both the object distance as well as the height of the image. And both of these formulas will help us solve this question. Now, I've jotted down the formulas for you already. So, to find the object distance, we use the mirror formula, which is what? 1 by f equals to 1 by u plus 1 by v. And to find the height of the image, we must use the magnification formula, which is m equals to h dash over h, which equals to minus v over u. Now, the sign convention is of utmost importance when it comes to formulae like this, all right? So, always remember this. Now, let us first calculate the object distance using the mirror formula. Now, we know that the focus is 20 centimeters, right? F equals to minus 20 centimeters. Now, the distance of the image is 30 centimeters. So, V equals to 30 centimeters. Now, in the first case, let's take this as case number 1. Let us assume that V is equal to minus 30. Now, putting the values in the mirror formula, we get U is equal to minus 60 centimeters. Okay. Now, with case 2, let us assume that V is positive, right? So, because the image can be on either side of the mirror. So, which means what? That V is plus 30 centimeters, like this. Now, after putting the values in the mirror formula, we get U is equal to minus 12 centimeters, right? But here in this question, we are told that both the image and the object are on the same side. So, obviously, case 2 is not possible. So, our answer over here is U is equal to minus 60 centimeters. Great. Now, let us calculate the magnification of the image. Now, we already know that U is minus 60 centimeters. Right. We know that V is equal to minus 30 centimeters. We know that the height of the object is plus 4 centimeters. Putting the values in the magnification formula, we get the magnification as minus half. Replugging the same values, and we find that the image height, HI, is equal to minus 2 centimeters. Great. We have solved this question. So, you see how mind maps helped us solve the problem. Now, this is not only in the case of physics topics, but mind maps can work with any other topic. Now, let me show you the same for a chemistry topic. All right, now here we have a mind map of the periodic classification of elements, right? Now, this has important concepts such as the Mendeleev's periodic table, the Dobereiner's triads, we have the Newland's octave, and we have the modern periodic table. And then under the modern periodic table, we have various trends of properties of elements. Now, all of this information over here would have taken a very long period of time to memorize, right? But with the help of the mind map, not only do we memorize it really quickly, we can also solve questions really, really quickly. So let us go and check out the question. Okay, so this question over here says, answer the following questions based on the elements with atomic number 3 to 9. Part A of the question says, name the element with the smallest atomic radius. Part B says, name the element which shows maximum valency. Part C says, name the element which is most electropositive. All right, then let's see how our mind map comes to our rescue. Okay, now mind map is here. Tell me which portion of the mind map will help us solve this question. Yes, here we are talking about the modern periodic table, and the questions are asked based on its trends. Hence, we need to focus on that portion. Now, since it has been said in the question that we need to look at the elements between the atomic number 3 to 9, let's recall what those are. Ta-da! Okay, so they are lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and fluorine. All right, now we know what the elements are. Now, let us answer part A of this question. Part A of this question says, name the element with smallest atomic radius. From our mind map, we can easily see that we are talking about the trend of atomic radius, right? We know that the atomic radius decreases along a period, so fluorine has the smallest atomic radius, right? Now, the atomic radius of lithium is 182 pm, and that of fluorine is 147 pm. And we have successfully answered part A. Let us look at the next option. Option B says, Name the element which shows maximum valency. Okay, now come back to the mind map and we will figure out how to answer this question. Here we are talking about valency. Hence, we will focus on the trends in valency, right? Valency is the combining capacity of the atom. For elements which have less than 4 valence electrons in their valence shell, valency is equal to the number of valence electrons. Now, for elements with more than 4 electrons in their valence shell, valency is equal to 8 minus the number of valence electrons. Hence, from the mentioned elements, I have displayed the valency. Now, here you can see that carbon will have the maximum valency. All right, that's part B done. Let's move on to part C of the question, which is name the element which is most electropositive. Once again, we shall come back to the mind map to answer our question. Here we are talking about electropositivity. Hence, we will focus on the trends in electronegative and electropositive character, right? Now, electropositive nature of an atom decreases along the period and increases down the group. Hence, lithium is the most electropositive of all these elements. And we're done with part C too. So wasn't this a really great way to use our mind map? But we're not done just yet. We still have to see how mind maps can be used in our other subjects. So let's go ahead and try a mind map from biology. Now, this biology chapter is all about heredity. It is divided into different concepts like the basics of heredity, where we learn or include the basics like gene, allele, and chromosomes. Then we have Mendel's experiments, where we have the sub-concepts of monohybrid cross, which gives us the law of dominance as well as the law of segregation. Then we have another sub-concept, which is the dihybrid cross, where we learn about the law of independent assortment. And the final concept that we have is the sex determination part of the chapter. So you see, we did a quick summary of the chapter just by glancing through the mind map. I told you mind maps are really, really super. Okay, now let's see how we can use this to solve a question. And here we have the question. The question says, find the F2 generation produced by crossing the following pea plants. Parent 1 is yellow round seed. Parent 2 is green wrinkled seed. Now, in order to solve this question, we need to find the F1 generation by crossing these two parents. Once we get the F1 generation, we can easily find the F2 generation. But in order to start crossing to find the F1 generation, we need to know how to write the genotype of the parents, which we get from this part of the mind map. So from here, we will get that genes exist as alleles, and thus we need to represent the genotype based on the alleles only. Now, since yellow and round are dominant characters, we will write them as a capital Y and a capital R. And since green and wrinkled are recessive, we will write them as small y and small r. So you see, we got it from this part of the mind map. So we get the first part of the solution. Then what next? Well, the parents need to undergo a monohybrid cross. Now, in order to do that, we need to know this part of the mind map, which discusses monohybrid cross and the laws. Now, the law of segregation helps us to write down the gametes over here, as you can see, right? These are the gametes formed. And then what do? We cross them and we get the genotype of the F1 generation, which is YYRR. But we also need the phenotype of it. Now, how will we get this? Well, we will do this using the law of dominance. Isn't that cool? So our phenotype is yellow round seed. Now, we have got our F1 generation. What do you think we should do next? Well, the next step is to find out how the dihybrid cross happens and how the F2 generation is produced. And we get all these from this section of the mind map, which discusses Mendel's dihybrid cross and the laws related to it. The law of independent assortment shows us how gametes are formed here, and the rest of the laws help us to create this Punnett square, which includes the F2 generation. And with that, we have solved the question. So do you see how easy it was when we used the mind map? Now, that is the speciality of a mind map. All right, so I hope you remember everything about the mind map. If you don't, let me recall it for you really, really quickly. All right. Now, it is time once again to check on our mind map of mind maps. Now, the first thing that we learned is what are mind maps. What is a mind map? A mind map is basically a visual representation or a complete picture of core concepts and their relationships with the key points in the concept. Then we learned why we should use mind maps. Why? Because it helps us to organize ideas or concepts, helps us to visualize, helps us to summarize, helps us to revise for exams, helps us to take notes, as well as helps us to organize our tasks and much, much more. Next, we try to understand the particular features of all mind maps. Now, the features we know include grouping up of certain topics under one branch. They should be less texty in nature. They should provide interconnections between various topics where there is a flow of direction of understanding even between concepts. And they should be reflective of the person making them, because a mind map made by you could be quite different from the one that someone else makes, right? And last but not least, we learned about how to make a mind map. So how do we do this? First, we have to start by listing down all the concepts. Then we learned that a mind map should have a skeleton structure. It starts with a center, which are connected to branches, which are known as sub-concepts. These individual sub-concepts or even a concept can give rise to individual facts, and then we repeat it for every other concept. And there you have it, your very own study buddy, the mind map. Mind maps can be a crucial learning technique for all your subjects as well as for any other field in life. They provide a sense of organization to those who are unable to make plans. Well, I hope that this interaction was of great use for you. It can bring about a lot of peace of mind and order. So I hope that you will use mind maps to your advantage and go ahead and ace those exams. So until we meet again, guys, be curious and always keep learning. Good luck.